The hall of the Crimson Court was carved from black crystal and living stone. Tall pillars rose like frozen shadows, and red light flowed slowly through veins in the walls, as if the palace itself was alive. The air was cool and heavy, filled with a soft hum of ancient power. Every noble present stood in silence, their pale eyes focused on the center of the chamber. This was not a normal gathering. For the first time in many cycles, humans had been invited into the heart of the vampire empire. The vampire species called themselves the Nocturne. To most of the galaxy, they were known simply as alien vampires. They did not drink blood like the myths of old Earth, but they fed on life energy, emotion, and fear. Their presence alone could make weaker species tremble. For thousands of years, they ruled nearby systems through fear and quiet control. Humans were new to this part of space, short-lived, loud, emotional. Most Nocturne nobles considered them fragile creatures who survived only because stronger races allowed it. At the far end of the hall, a small group of humans stood together. They wore simple dark uniforms, unarmed as required by court law. Among them was Elias Ward. Elias was not important by rank. He was not a famous hero, not a politician, not a noble. He was chosen because he had survived things that should have broken him: war, loss, long years in deep space. His commanders said he stayed calm when others panicked. The Nocturne translators described this trait as emotional endurance. Elias stood straight, his hands relaxed at his sides. His heart was beating fast, but he did not show it. Around him, vampire nobles watched the humans like scientists observing insects. At the center of the hall stood the throne. It was empty. A low sound echoed through the chamber like distant thunder. The nobles bowed instantly. Even the eldest among them lowered their heads. The princess had arrived. She stepped out from the shadows behind the throne, and the air itself seemed to react. The red light in the walls brightened. Some of the younger nobles flinched without meaning to. Princess Valera of House Nocturne walked forward slowly. She was tall, her skin pale with a faint silver glow. Her eyes were deep crimson, ancient and young at the same time. Dark energy moved around her like a slow tide, barely controlled. She was powerful, too powerful. Whispers spread quietly through the hall. Everyone knew the truth, even if they did not speak it openly. Valera's power was growing faster than expected. Unstable power was dangerous among the Nocturne. If left unchecked, it could consume the bearer or tear worlds apart. That was why this gathering existed. By ancient law, a Nocturne of overwhelming power must choose a life bond, a partner whose presence could stabilize their energy. Usually, this meant a strong, noble warrior or an elder of great discipline. No one expected surprise. Valera reached the center of the chamber and turned slowly, her gaze moving across the rows of nobles. One by one, they straightened, hoping, praying she would look at them longer. Her eyes passed over them. Then they stopped. The entire hall went still. Her gaze had settled on the humans, more precisely on Elias. Elias felt it like a weight pressing on his chest. Her eyes were not hungry, they were focused, curious, almost calm. Before anyone could react, Valera lifted her hand. She pointed straight at him. "I want him," she said, her voice clear and steady, echoing through the hall. "As my husband." Silence followed, then chaos. Shouts erupted from the noble rows. Some voices were angry, others shocked, others afraid. Several elders stepped forward at once, their eyes blazing. "A human," one elder hissed. "This is madness." "The law does not forbid," another began, only to be cut off. The law was never meant for prey species. The human delegation froze. Elias felt the blood drain from his face. His commander reached out slightly, as if to pull him back, but guards moved instantly, placing themselves between the humans and the nobles. Elias did not move. He looked at the princess. "Princess Valera," an elder said sharply, forcing calm into his tone, "you must reconsider. This creature is untested, weak." "He cannot possibly." "He can," Valera replied. Her power flared for just a moment, enough to make the floor tremble. The elder fell silent. She turned her full attention to Elias and walked toward him. With every step, the pressure in the room increased. Several nobles stepped back without realizing it. She stopped only a few steps away. Elias swallowed. Every instinct told him to kneel, to look away, to show submission. He did none of those things. He met her eyes, steady and respectful. "You understand what I have declared?" Valera asked. "I understand that my answer matters," Elias said slowly. His voice was calm, though his hands trembled slightly, and that saying no might cost lives. A faint, surprised expression crossed her face. "You are not wrong," she said, "but you are not afraid." "I am afraid," Elias replied honestly. "I just won't let it decide for me." The nobles murmured again. This was not how humans were supposed to speak. Valera turned back to the court. "Humans carry a rare resonance," she said. "Their lives burn fast but strong. This one's resonance is stable, anchoring. When I stand near him, my power quiets." To prove it, she extended her senses fully. The red glow in the walls dimmed slightly. The air softened. The pressure eased. Gasps echoed through the chamber. "Impossible. Nocturne science confirms this," an elder demanded. "Yes," Valera said, though none wished to listen. The human commander stepped forward carefully. "Princess, with respect, this was not discussed with us." Valera looked at him. "Then consider this the discussion." She turned back to Elias. "You will not be forced," she said, "but understand this. If I do not choose you, my power will continue to grow. The council will attempt to control it. They will fail. War will follow." Elias closed his eyes briefly. He thought of Earth, of the soldiers he served with, of how many wars began because someone refused to take responsibility. When he opened his eyes, he nodded once. "I will go with you," he said, "not as property, not as prey, as a person." Another pause. Then slowly Valera smiled. "So it shall be," she said. The council erupted again, but this time fear crept into their voices. Ancient laws were being invoked, binding words spoken. The declaration could not be undone without bloodshed. Guards approached Elias, not roughly but firmly. He was escorted away from the humans, toward the inner halls of the palace. As he walked beside the alien princess, Elias felt the weight of countless eyes on his back. He did not know if he was walking toward honor or death. Far above the palace, unseen by those inside, long-range sensors detected movement across the stars. Other powers were watching, and the galaxy had just changed. The palace of the Nocturne was vast beyond anything Elias had imagined. After leaving the Crimson Court, he was guided through long corridors where the light never came from lamps, but from the walls themselves. Dark red and soft violet hues moved slowly, reacting to the presence of those who walked past. Everything felt alive, watching, listening. Elias was given a private chamber deep inside the inner palace. The doors closed without sound behind him. The room was large but simple. A bed formed from smooth black stone rested near one wall. There were no restraints, no guards inside. That alone made him more nervous than chains would have. He sat down slowly and let out a long breath. "So this is how it starts," he muttered. Time passed differently there. He could not tell how long he had been alone when the air shifted. He felt it before he saw her. Princess Valera appeared near the entrance, as if stepping out of shadow itself. She did not wear a crown now. Without the weight of the court, she seemed younger, though the power around her was still present, controlled but immense. "You are calm," she said. "Most would be screaming by now." "I scream on the inside," Elias replied honestly. "It keeps things neat." For a moment she looked confused. Then unexpectedly she laughed. It was soft, brief, and very real. "You are strange," she said. "I hear that a lot," Elias answered. She walked closer, stopping a respectful distance away. The closer she came, the more Elias noticed something strange. The pressure he had felt in the court was gone. The air felt lighter, easier. Valera noticed his expression. "You feel it," she said. "Yes," Elias replied. Whatever was weighing on everything before, it's quieter. That is because of you, she said simply. Your presence stabilizes my core energy. I have never experienced this level of control. Elias frowned slightly. So I'm, what? A living battery? No, she said firmly. You are an anchor, there is a difference. Over the next cycles, Elias learned what it meant to live inside the vampire capital. He was not imprisoned, but he was never alone. Servants watched him quietly. Guards followed at a distance. He was allowed to walk certain paths, see certain halls, but always under silent observation. The nobles were less subtle. Wherever Elias went, eyes followed him. Some held curiosity, many held hatred. To them he was prey pretending to be equal. Valera spent time with him daily. Not as a ruler, but as someone trying to understand. She asked him about Earth, about human families, about why humans continued fighting even when the odds were hopeless. We do not understand that, she admitted once. When Nocturne face impossible odds, we retreat and wait. Time favors us. Time doesn't favor humans, Elias said, so we make choices faster. She thought about that for a long time. The tests began without announcement. One day, Elias was led into a chamber filled with shifting illusions. Fear constructs designed to pull memories from the mind and turn them against the subject. The nobles expected screams, panic, madness. Elias walked through quietly. He saw faces he had buried long ago, heard voices from lost battles. His knees shook, his breath shortened. But he kept moving. When it was over, the observing nobles were silent. Another day, he was offered luxury beyond reason, pleasure, power, control over others. All things Nocturne believed humans secretly desired. Elias refused. I've seen what power without limits does, he said. I don't want it. This confused them even more. The most dangerous test came when no one admitted it was a test at all. Elias and Valera were walking along a high balcony overlooking the capital city. Artificial night spread endlessly below, broken by glowing towers and drifting shadows. For the first time, Valera seemed relaxed. Then the attack came. A blade of condensed energy burst from behind a pillar, aimed straight for Valera's back. Elias reacted without thinking. He moved between them, shoving her aside as the blade struck him across the shoulder. Pain exploded through his body. He fell hard, the world spinning. The assassin was dead seconds later, torn apart by palace guards, but no one moved toward Elias at first. Valera knelt beside him, her hands shaking. You are injured, she said, her voice tight. I noticed, Elias said weakly. Dark energy surged around her, wild and furious. The city lights below flickered. Do not lose control, Elias whispered. I'm still here, she froze. Slowly the power receded. Medics rushed in, both human and Nocturne. As they worked, something unexpected happened. Elias' blood came into contact with Valera's skin. Instead of triggering hunger or frenzy, her power stabilized completely. The reading stunned everyone. Impossible, one scientist whispered. His life energy is compatible. The news spread like fire. A human could neutralize Nocturne power. That night the council met in secret. This union cannot continue, one elder said. He is dangerous. Not to us, another replied. To our control. They all understood the truth. If humans could resist Nocturne dominance naturally, centuries of fear-based rule would collapse. The decision was made. The princess would be removed. Elias recovered slowly. He noticed changes in how Valera looked at him. There was concern there now and trust. You should hate me, she said one evening. I dragged you into this. I chose to stay, Elias replied. That matters. Alarms sounded across the palace. The lights darkened. Valera stood instantly. They are moving. Guards loyal to the council flooded the inner halls. The princess was declared unfit. Elias was marked for termination. Human ships detected the chaos and moved closer to Nocturne space, weapons cold but ready. As palace doors were breached, Valera turned to Elias. Stay behind me, she ordered. Elias shook his head. Not happening. Together, they faced the oncoming storm. And for the first time in Nocturne history, fear flowed in the opposite direction. The inner halls of the palace shook as security barriers collapsed one after another. Red light flashed, then faded, then flashed again as systems older than human history struggled against internal sabotage. The Nocturne capital had never known chaos like this. It had always been ruled by fear, order, and patience. Now all three were breaking. Elias stood beside Princess Valira in the widening corridor. Guards loyal to her formed a thin line, weapons raised, but everyone knew they were outnumbered. The council had controlled the empire for centuries. They had planned this moment carefully. Valira's power surged around her, dark and vast, like a storm held back by fragile walls. Elias could feel it pressing against him, asking to be released. He placed a hand gently on her arm. "Breathe," he said quietly. "You're not alone." She looked at him, surprised again by the simple calm in his voice. Slowly, the storm eased. "You should not be here," she said. "This is my war." "If it was only yours," Elias replied, "they wouldn't be trying so hard to kill me too." Footsteps thundered closer. Shadows filled the corridor as council guards advanced. These were elite Nocturne warriors, trained to fight their own kind. Their eyes burned with controlled hunger and loyalty to the old order. An elder's voice echoed through the hall. "Princess Valira, by the authority of the Crimson Council, you are stripped of title and command. Step aside and the human will be spared a clean death." Elias stepped forward before Valira could speak. "No," he said. The word was quiet, but it carried. The guards hesitated for half a second. That was all it took. Human ships dropped out of silent drift above the capital. The sky above the city shimmered as defensive fields reacted to unknown signatures. Human vessels did not open fire. They simply arrived, steady and unafraid. "This is a human diplomatic escort," a calm human voice transmitted across open channels. "We are here to retrieve our citizen. Any hostile action will be met with proportional defense." The council panicked. They had never planned for this. Nocturne power relied on fear and control. Humans did not panic. They advanced carefully, adapting in real time. Boarding teams landed near the palace, moving with discipline, unaffected by psychic pressure that would have shattered other species. Inside the palace, fighting erupted. Valira moved like living shadow, precise and controlled. She did not strike to kill unless forced. Elias stayed close, not hiding behind her but moving with her, warning her of flanking threats, helping injured guards, refusing to abandon anyone. Council loyalists tried to dominate him mentally. Nothing happened. Their power slid off his mind like rain off stone. The realization spread fast. "He's immune," one warrior whispered in fear. That fear spread faster than any weapon. The elders retreated to the council chamber, sealing ancient doors behind them. Valira approached the massive gates, her energy rising again, uncontrolled this time. "If I break this," she said, "I may not stop." Elias stepped in front of her. "Then don't break it," he said. "Let me try." He walked to the center of the chamber floor and spoke loudly, his voice carried by human and Nocturne systems alike. "You're afraid," Elias said. "Not of her, of change." The elders watched through energy screens, silent. "You ruled by fear because it was easy," Elias continued. "You say you are immortal, but you never learned how to live with others. Humans did, we had no choice." One elder finally spoke. "You are nothing but a short-lived creature." Elias nodded. "That's true, which is why we value every moment, every bond, even this one." He turned slightly, placing himself fully between Valira and the sealed chamber. "You want to kill me to stop what's happening," he said. "But you can't unlearn the truth. Humans don't break the way you expect, and she doesn't need you anymore." Silence followed. Then the doors opened. The elders emerged, their authority cracked. They could feel it now. Valira's power was no longer unstable. It was calm, balanced, something new. This union changes everything, an elder said quietly. Yes, Valera replied, that is the point. By ancient law, the life bond was sealed in the presence of witnesses from both species. No blood, no dominance, only mutual consent. Elia stood beside her, tired, bruised, but steady. I choose him, Valera said to the galaxy, not because he is weak, but because he is strong where we were not. Human representatives stood firm. Nocturne nobles watched in disbelief. The bond formed. Energy rippled outward, not destructive but stabilizing. Across Nocturne space, unstable cores quieted. Young nobles who had lived in fear of their own power felt relief for the first time. The old order collapsed without a final battle. In the weeks that followed, the galaxy adjusted. Humans were no longer labeled prey. They were called anchors, partners. The only species proven able to stand beside monsters and not become one. Valera ruled not alone but together with Elias. He did not command armies. He did not rule by fear. He listened. He reminded her of limits and hope, and the vampire empire changed. Not because it was conquered, but because one human refused to break and one princess chose balance over domination. The galaxy would remember that day, not as the rise of humans through war, but as the moment fear lost its throne.